post recording Isaac, I'm telling you guys right now, you are in for a freaking yap fest. A yap fest. So if you don't want to listen to this goofy goober yap for like, I don't know how long it's going to be after I edit this, but for like a long time, then just don't watch this. Go watch something else, please. I yapped so much in this episode. But yeah, without any further ado, enjoy the episode. It's February. Well, as of recording this, it's technically January, but when you're watching this, it's gonna be February, so it's February. February is known for a lot of things. It's known for having randomly just an extra day at the end of it every 4 years. It's known for being the coldest month of the year, and it's also known for Valentine's Day. But yeah, February has a lot of fun things going on for it. And since, you know, kind of to keep with the theme of Valentine's Day, I decided, you already know what this video is about, I'm assuming, unless you were just so excited to see a new podcast from me that you didn't even read the title. But I'm going to be talking about my opinions on dating. Who asked for it? Nobody. I just decided to do it, and now you're gonna get it. So, also, while we're kind of still talking about Valentine's Day, I really miss Valentine's Day as a kid. That was the best. I'm homeschooled now, but at the time, I went to school from like preschool to 2nd grade, but Valentine's Day was the best, dude. You just went there and got candy. Like, it literally, that was it. It's not focusing. There we go. It was literally one of the best days at school. You would go get free candy from your classmates and you would just munch, dude. It was great. Also, do you guys remember those like gummy bands? I forgot what they're called. Hold on. They're literally called gummy bands. Do you remember those? Those were my favorite because like you would wear them and then you'd like eat them. I'm just yapping to yap at this point. I don't even know what I'm talking about. You know, now as an older person, Valentine's Day is not as fun as a kid. We should bring that back, you know? There shouldn't be this overlying feeling that you should be in a relationship to really celebrate it. I feel like for these single people, we should all just show up to their house and give them, I say these single people like I'm not single, but we give them candy. I don't freaking know. I think it would be fun. But yeah, Valentine's Day as an older person is a little bit more depressing, especially if you're single. But that's kind of transitioning into the topic of today's video, which is my thoughts on dating. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. My opinions on dating are not the popular opinions. I'm gonna put it like that. So, if you get offended by this, then the frick, you're gonna get offended by some random person's opinion on the internet. You have better things to do with your life. And I'd say my opinions are pretty valid too. For like the average Joe off the street, if I were to tell them my opinions, they'd go, you know what? Yeah, you got a point a little bit there. So just hear me out, please. Let's start off with what I think the purpose to dating is. We're gonna play devil's advocate a little bit too, and kind of, you know, challenge my opinions on this and see where that takes us. So first off, what is the purpose of dating in my opinion? The sole purpose of dating is to find someone to marry, okay? I know a lot of people disagree with that, and I know a decent amount of people agree with that. Like, majority of people I talk to have the same belief as me, that it's for marriage. But for some reason, a lot of times nowadays, people don't date with marriage in mind. They date with, like, dating in mind. I think the forefront of dating should be you're dating this person because eventually, if it goes well, you're expecting to marry them. Here is a question I want to ask anyone who's in a current relationship right now. If the current partner you're with, if you had to marry that person, would you be happy? If the answer is no, then I urge you to reconsider dating that person. If you would not marry this person, then why are you dating them? Even if you're not going to marry them, just like you shouldn't be dating someone that you wouldn't marry. I think that's a pretty valid statement to make here. If you wouldn't marry this person, then it's probably not gonna like go well. But yeah, you know, me saying that the sole purpose of dating, in my opinion, is marriage, some people could push back on that a little bit. Some people say, well, dating's a social thing, which, like, obviously yes, okay, but that still doesn't change the fact that it's for marriage. Like, if it's social where you go and you meet people, first of all, you can meet people without dating them. That's gonna be my biggest argument to come back with. It's like, you don't need to date someone to build a relationship. Like, you could have a friendship with someone, and if that, what am I yapping about? That's probably gonna be my biggest like argument throughout this whole thing, is you don't need to date someone. But like, I understand what they mean social, like group dates. But yeah, there's like social dates, which quite literally is where you ask someone out for like prom or a dance or something like that, which, you know, that's fine. Okay, because it's like, usually that's kind of like just like a one-time thing. Sometimes it does lead to like actually dating, but like typically that's just like, it's gonna be a kind of serious, but not really serious date. A lot of thing I get from people too is, well, you should date to figure out who you want to marry and who you don't want to marry. Which, like, that's a pretty valid argument, I'm gonna be honest. And if people do that, there's nothing against that. Like, I'm not here to be like, oh, that's not good, that's not a good plan. It's a great plan, okay? If you go on dates just to be like, do I click with this person? That's 100% valid, and that is something you totally should do, especially if you're looking to get married. But at the same time, I don't know why they'd be bringing this up when they're like 15 years old. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna get married anytime soon, and I still have tons and tons of time to figure out who I want to marry, what that person's gonna look like, and it just keeps stay focused on me. Immaculate jawline, please. That's a little silly to be like, well, I'm just trying to figure out who I want to marry and who I don't want to marry. It's like, you have 2 years. Like, at a minimum, you have 2 years. You possibly have up to 10 years. You don't need to date to do that. Like, for example, I have friends that I would never date now, but I learned that by just being friends with them. Like, I didn't have to date them. By being friends with them for like a couple of months, I learned eventually, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna date this person for these reasons. And I'm so glad that I didn't start dating them, because later on, it would have been an issue. Once again, if that's what you do, is you date because you want to figure out who you want to marry, and you want to figure out who clicks with you in a relationship and who doesn't, that is totally valid. I'm not here to diss that. That's a good plan. But when you're like 15, 16 years old, it's really not necessary. That's something you do when you're like looking to get married. Like, you're like, I want to get married so soon. That's when you do that. But it's not a bad plan. I just think it's not necessarily necessary. You can be friends with people. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I have friends with people I would never date, you know? I'm straight, but even like some of my guy friends, right? If there was a girl who was like them, I would be like, no. There's certain attributes that I'm just like, yeah, I would not be able to live with that. Why am I sitting like this? You need to get the full picture of how I'm sitting. I'm sitting like this. But yeah, that kind of, I think that's about all I have to say. I'm low-key yapping a lot, but let's kind of transition into the next thing, which is, when should you start dating? Now, this is probably going to be the hottest take out of this whole video, I hope. I honestly don't think you should date until you can get married. That is my opinion. Another thing is too, I'm LDS. I'm sure you guys know this. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you probably didn't, but I've talked about this in other podcast episodes. But I'm planning on going on an LDS mission. And for those of you who don't know, that's basically 2 years where from the earliest you can go is 18. But once you turn 18, you go for 2 years to an assigned spot and you just serve as a missionary. It's a pretty cool experience and I definitely want to go. But I made myself a promise when I was like, I was like 12, right? I watched this movie. It's called Best 2 Years. Even if you're not LDS, you should watch it. It's a great movie. It's so funny. And it kind of gives you an insight onto what like a missionary's life is. So if you've ever been interested in that, just check it out. It's such a funny movie. I think it's free on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure, but like, just watch it if you're bored. It's so fun. It's a great movie. But yeah, in that movie, the main character basically is kind of sad for a decent amount of the movie because his girlfriend broke up with him. And there's also a scene later on where his companion also has his girlfriend break up with him and they're just depressed and sad. And I watched that. I was like, I'm not going to be dealing with that on my mission. I'm not going to be sitting around depressed and sad because I was dating some girl. I go on my mission. She found someone better than me. And let me tell you something right now, ladies. I would not hold that against you at all if that happened. If I was gone for 2 years, that's totally understandable if someone else came along. Because I know I'm a great guy, but there are lots of other great guys out there just like me that might even be better than me. And if they come along and they sweep you off your feet and they take you, like literally if I was dating and I went on a mission, I would low-key tell my girlfriend, like, do not feel bad if you start dating anyone else. Like, I'm gone for 2 years. If you stay, that's amazing. If you don't, it's totally fine, either or. But that's something that I don't really want to deal with at all. And literally everyone I've told so far has been like, that's smart. That's a smart idea. So I feel like it's been good for me. I feel like it's been justifiable. So my opinion on dating is, with a non-LDS view, I guess, of waiting till you're back from your mission, is do not date, like seriously steady date people until you are ready to get married. That's my opinion. The lighting's kind of janky. I thought it was good. Let me show y'all the lighting setup we got right now. You're coming with me. Okay, so this cord's not long enough, but we got a light right here. We got a light right there. We got a light up there. And then we got me. I just woke up, so I'm kind of scary. Yeah, that's the lighting setup. One thing I've heard quite a bit is, at least, especially from the parents, I've heard this from the parents so much, is I let my kid date because he or she's gotta kind of understand the opposite sex, which, like, kind of sounds weird when you say that. Like, this is something I hear a lot, and maybe I'm a little bit biased here because I have like 4 sisters, but you don't need to date girls to understand girls. You have friends that are girls, and that teaches you so much about girls. Like, I feel like you tend to understand girls better by just being friends with them, if that makes any sense. But yeah, you definitely don't need to date to understand the opposite sex. Like, just be friends with them and you'll understand them plenty well. Or, you know, I know some people also struggle with even talking to the opposite sex, but first of all, unless they died, which if that is the case, I'm so sorry. But you have a dad, you have a mom. Interesting thing is, and I'm pretty sure this has been studied before, I don't have exact thing to reference it, but if you want to like fact check me, look it up, totally do that. But it is shown that girls without a good relationship with their father, or that don't even have a father figure in their life, typically tend to date more, and guys without a good relationship with their mother or a good mother figure in their life also typically tend to date more, which I find really interesting because it's kind of like we're trying to compensate a little bit. And I'm not saying if you date a lot that you don't have a good relationship with your mom or your dad. People with good relationships with their parents also date too, but it's found that it is more common in people that don't have good relationships. But it's like we have this natural desire to have some sort of good relationship with the opposite sex, whether that be through your mom or your dad. But I have a great relationship with my mom. You know, sometimes we argue because, you know, yeah, I just find that super interesting. So maybe, you know, if you feel like you need a date, work on your relationship with your mom or your dad first. Or you might already have a great relationship with your parents. If you want to date anyways. I guess I've been yapping a lot, but kind of just to sum this up, you should date when you feel ready for marriage, okay? If you're 15 and you are so ready to start looking for a future partner and you only date thinking like, I'm going to marry this person down the line, then go ahead. I don't have any guarantees that it's going to work out. Sometimes it does, but that's like a 1% chance. If that's you, then that's great. You do you, okay? But I feel like we as a society don't date with marriage in mind anymore. We date with dating in mind. Like, oh, I'm going to date this person. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but you really got to think long term. That's the biggest thing with people and dating is they do not think long term on these relationships. They just think,
dang, she cute, and she think I'm cute, and we have like 3 things in common. But other than that, not really. And if we really thought about this for 2 seconds, it really wouldn't make a great relationship. But she hecka fine, dude.
And like I said, I will reiterate this so much. If you date when you're young, or if you date not for marriage, I have nothing against you, okay? There is nothing wrong with dating younger.
What did he say?
Not dating for marriage, I do see like a slight issue with that, but it's totally, like, I see why people date when they're young. Okay, I totally get it, but, you know, it's just a decision I've made not to, and I have no ill will if you date. You know, and I've made this decision not to date until I'm back from my mission, and some people might be asking, well, Isaac, you're such a stud, like, haven't you had girls trying to date you? And to that I say, not really, actually, not really. First of all, I'm kind of straightforward about dating So if anyone asks me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not dating until I'm back from my mission. And I stick to my guns. Like, you know how funny it would be to be like, I'm not dating until I'm back from my mission, but then a cute girl shows up and she's like, hey, I think you cute, you want to date? And I just fold like a chair. What does that say about me? It doesn't say good things about me. It says I cannot keep a promise to myself, at least. You know, I really stick to my guns. And at the same time, like, if someone was interested in dating me and I was like, no, I'm not dating because my mission, I literally have no hard feelings towards them if they start dating someone else. Okay, you know how ridiculous it would be for someone to be like, hey, I'm interested in you, I want to date you, and I say, no, I'm not going to date you right now. I'm not going to date you for like a few years, actually. And then they go off and start dating someone else, and then I got all pissed off at them. Like, how dare you date that guy? Why are you dating that guy? What about me? Like, I don't know, that was kind of random. I don't know how I'm going to edit this. It's going to be like such a big jumbled mess to edit. Let's talk about when you should start dating someone. Not age-wise. I think this is another kind of hot take. I think you shouldn't start dating right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like, if you meet someone, you're into her, she's into you, you both think you're super cute, you guys have, like, tons in common. I honestly think that you should be friends for at least, like, a month first before you start dating, okay? And some of you might be like, well, what if some dude comes and steals her from you? You can talk to her about that. I feel like if she really does like you, she'll agree. She'll be like, oh yeah, we can just like not actually date, you know, hang out as friends for like a month. And if we click and then like we come back together in a month and we'll talk about it and we want to date, then that's great. But I've said before, there's a few people that I'm friends with, and after being friends with them for a bit, I'm like, yeah, I probably, even if I was dating right now, wouldn't date this person for this reason, that reason, and this reason. And I'm glad I didn't start dating them because I learned things and I was like, yeah, you know, that doesn't quite slide with me. So I think it's a good idea. I'm very much one that I feel like a relationship should be super duper natural. Like, it should start off as not knowing each other, to knowing each other, to friends, to dating, to marriage eventually. There is nothing wrong, once again, with going straight from, you know, meeting this person to immediately dating. That's what my dad did and it worked out. I'm here, so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if you have the time and there's no like rush to start dating anyone for whatever reason, yeah, I think you should start off as friends, take it slow, and once you really know this person, if it's still good, then I just think it's a good idea. But yeah, I think one last thing to talk about, super quick, is what is a good first date. But I think these are some pretty valid date ideas. First few things you gotta understand with a first date. One, you got to be able to learn about this person, okay? You got to be able to understand them. It's kind of nice when you're friends, like I brought this up earlier, but when you're friends, you already know so much about them that when you go on your first date, it could be like a, you know, just kind of like a chill hangout. You don't have to like sit down and talk and get to know them super well because you already know so much about them. But yeah, if this is like, you know, you just met this person, you asked them out on a date, you don't know too much about them, I think a good first date would be something where you can talk, okay? So movie theater date, definitely not, okay? I think that's just not a very good first date in general, okay? The reason why is you just literally sit like this and you stare at a screen for like 2 hours, dude. Okay, those are 2 hours you could have spent talking to this person, having a deep conversation, and no, you're just sitting there like occasionally trying to, you know, to look at all. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. Second thing to having a good date is knowing what they like to do and what they don't like to do. I feel like if you want to stand out as someone who, if you want to stand out against the other guys or gals, you got to do something that they haven't done or something that most people wouldn't do. You know, honestly, this has been one of the most like I just sat down and started talking in front of the camera episodes of all time. So if this somehow is entertaining, I don't know. I don't know how I did it. It's 30 minutes as of recording this right now. And I don't know, you're probably at like minute 2 because I've cut out so much. One thing I've been thinking about doing, and I don't know if you guys want me to do this or not, but I've really been thinking about doing a really deep dive into Jordan Matter. Because first of all, it's kind of obvious he fakes his videos. And my most popular podcast episode is where I talk about Jordan Matter. That was not well put together at all. I just sat down in front of camera and was like, I don't like these things I'm seeing about Jordan Matter and his daughter and her friend Nadal, and a bunch of people were like angry at me in the comments saying, you have no proof. And it's like, I mean, sure, I don't have proof, but like you kind of, if you have eyes, and if you are not like a teenager or a kid, you can kind of spot that and notice it. But yeah, if you guys want me to do a deep dive into that, I will. I actually know a girl that is in college right now trying to become a detective, so maybe she'll help me out. I don't know if she wants to like spend her time helping me with Jordan Matter of all things, but you know, if you want me to, I will research that and I will really make a in-depth video about it. But yeah, I think that's it. Happy Valentine's Day, all you single Pringles out there and all you people in a relationship. I gotta go do stuff now. There's a full day ahead of me and hopefully a full day ahead of you. Love you guys, I guess. Goodbye. Oh.